Hello. Today I will be showing you how to crochet a ultra cropped pullover in any size with any yarn that you would like to use. So I will be using the King Cole Cotton Silk Blend DK lightweight yarn, and with that I'll be pairing it with a 4.5mm hook. So first we need to get your gauge, and this is a little sample of my gauge, and it is 10 stitches and 3 rows. So this is what 10 stitches and 3 rows looks like. So we'll be working 1 row, and then it's in between a half double crochet and double crochet, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then this is our slip stitch row, and then this would be the same as this. We'll call it a braid stitch. I don't know the proper term for it though. Okay, so I will go ahead and get started. I totally forgot what this is called. Oh goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and chain 10. Okay, so now I have 10 chains. I will block that last stitch and chain 3, and this will not count as a braid stitch. So then I will go into that 4th chain. I will yarn over and pull over, and you know, with your normal double crochet you would go ahead and yarn over and pull 2 through, and then yarn over and pull 2 through. And then with your half double crochet, I'm over here teaching you but I just want to, you know, elaborate more. You will go ahead and yarn over and pull through, and then you'll yarn over and pull through all 3. But with this braid stitch, you will be yarning over, inserting your hook, pulling through, and now you have your 3 chains on there. You will yarn over and pull through 1, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. So again, you yarn over, you go in through your stitch, yarn over and pull through. Now you have 3, yarn over and pull through 1, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. And we'll be calling that a braid stitch because I don't know the proper term, but I will go ahead and link the tutorial where I learned this from, which is a more elaborate tutorial than this. So I will go ahead and do this 10 times, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so this is what that first row should look like. So once I'm here, I will go ahead and chain 1 and turn. So now we're going to be working this slip stitch across. So that chain 1 will not count as a stitch. Okay, so you see how you have a V right here? When you sort of flip it like this, we will be going through the little loop that is closest to us. So it'll be this one right here. And we'll be slip stitching 10 across like that. See, I'm only going through that first loop. Oops. And also keep in mind, when you are working the slip stitch, you want to keep a loose tension, because when you're working your way back on the next row, you will have a tough time getting into the stitch if you have tight tension. So just remember that. Don't tighten your tension, keep it loose. But you also don't want to keep it too loose, you know, just because then they will look like loose stitches, and you also don't want that. Alright, and that's what that should look like. So now we will be doing the following braid stitch, and we can start that by chaining 3 and turning our work. we have our chain 3. We're gonna yarn over, and we are inserting our braid stitch. Same method as we did with the slip stitch. We are going, you'll see that little V. We will be going through the loop that is closest to us, and you see, I think I might have, my tension might have been a little tight, but we'll see. Okay, yarn over, go in through that first little loop of that V, yarn over, pull through 1, and yarn over and pull through 3. But yes, continue that all the way at the end. Okay, I just finished my gauge, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my measuring tape and measure across. So that is a good 2.5 inches, I will say. So that means that for me, 10 stitches equals 2.5 inches across. After you have your gauge, you are going to want to take measurements to get the perfect fit. Okay, so my measurements around my upper bust area is 39 inches. So I'm gonna take my 39 inches and I'm gonna divide it by 2 because we are working a back and a front. We're not working in rounds, we're working in rows. And that is 19.5 inches, which means that this should be 19.5 inches for me. For you, that's going to be a different number. So that's the number we have to worry about right now. We're going to be working from the bottom up. Bottom up, and then when we get here, you pretty much want to measure from your armpit area all the way down to however long you want the sleeve. Take that measurement, and that's how long you want this and this. But for now, we'll just worry about the 19.5 inches. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your measurement, whatever that is, right? So for me, it's 19.5. And I'm going to divide that by 2.5, which is how long my gauge measured. So that is 19.5 divided by 2.5. That equals 7.8. And I'm going to multiply that by 10 because that's 10 stitches. And you should have 10 too because you should measure 10 stitches. And that will give me the amount of stitches I should crochet for my length, which will be 19.5. So my 78 stitches should measure 19.5, and of course yours will be different. So now to get the shoulder measurement, you're going to want to measure from your shoulder all the way down to your wrist, or you know, if you want a shorter sleeve or a longer sleeve, whatever that is for you. So for me, that is 20 inches. So same, I'm going to apply the same method. So I'm going to do 20 divided by my however long my gauge measured, which is 2.5, which is 8, and I'm going to multiply that by 10 because that's how many stitches I measured for my gauge, and that gives me 80. So my sleeves will be 80 stitches. And now we can finally get started. We're gonna do the back piece first, and we're gonna start from the bottom and work our way up. So I'm gonna begin to chain 78 chains. So I'll start with my 4.5 hook. I'll go ahead and do my slip knot, and I'm gonna chain 78 stitches. Now that I have my 78 stitches, I will chain 3 and go into that 4th chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 3. And that counts as our first, so the chain 3 doesn't count towards the 78. Go ahead and work the next chain. And I'll work that all the way till the end, and I'll meet you there. Okay, I am 3 stitches away from the end. And that completes our first row. Now I'm gonna switch over to a 5mm hook. It just helps with my tension not being so tight on the second row when I'm working the slip stitches, because when I go back and into the slip stitches, I find it really hard to get in there. So if I work with a 0.5 millimeter larger hook than my original hook, it just works out a lot better. So I recommend that. So go ahead and chain 1. To begin our second row, we'll be working in, you see that V? We'll be working in the stitch closest to us. So I'll go in there and slip stitch. So there's that V. So if you're looking at it like this, I recommend kind of propping it like that. And we're working in the stitch closest to us. And go ahead and slip stitch 78 all the way across for row 2. Now I'm nearing the end of this row. And if you're ever confused about how many slip stitches you've made or how many are left, I recommend always counting back to make sure you have the amount that you are crocheting, which is what I'm about to do. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to my 4.5mm hook, and I am gonna chain 3 and turn. And now I'm gonna go ahead and do that braid stitch, and I am going in through that stitch that's closest to us as well. So you normally you'll hold your work like this, but I'm turning it like this so I can see that V. Hopefully you can see that going in through the one closest to us. Oops, I did not yarn over. Yarn over, go through, pull through 1, yarn over and pull through all 3. And I will do that all the way till the end for row 3. And then when we get to the end, we'll chain 1 and turn and continue slip stitching, and I'll meet you there. And if you're finding it difficult to get into that stitch, then that means that your tension is too tight. So next time you're going in with those slip stitches, just loosen up your tension a tad bit and that will help you get in through that stitch a lot easier. And for me, that will be row 9, up until row 9. I'll repeat this, and like I said, you can have the length that you want, but just make sure that your last row is a braid stitch, not a slip stitch. Okay, so I will meet you when I'm done with that. Okay, so I just finished with my 9th row of braid stitches, so now we're going to begin working on the sleeve part. So for me, the sleeve is going to be 80 stitches long. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and chain my 80 chains. Once I'm done with my 80 stitches, I'm gonna go ahead and change hooks, and I am gonna work my way back to the body with slip stitches. I'm gonna block that the 80 stitch or chain, and chain 1, and then I will go into it with my slip stitches. So you're gonna work 80 slip stitches back to the body. So I am 3 stitches away from the body. Okay, so that is our 10th row, and we will continue to slip stitch through our body piece, and again that I will be slip stitching 78 all the way across for our 10th row. And yeah, this is sort of what it should look like right now. So this is like our armpit area and the length of our arm. I will meet you when I finish slip stitching all the way till the end. Once that is done, I am going to chain 80, but I'm gonna switch over to my 4.5mm hook. So now I'm gonna chain 80 for the other sleeve. Now that the other sleeve is chained with 80 stitches or 80 chains, you're gonna want to work your way back with a braid stitch. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm gonna chain 3 to begin my braid stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3. Braid stitch into that 4th chain. And work 80 braid stitches all the way back to the body. And I will meet you when I am there. Alright, so I am 2 stitches away from the body. Now that I'm at the body, I'm going to continue braid stitching all the way till the end here, and then continue to the end of the other sleeve, and that will be a row. That will be considered a row. So if I'm counting back to make sure that I don't miss any stitches, for me it's going to be 78 plus 80 for one sleeve plus 80 for the other sleeve, which equals to 38 stitches. I'll meet you here just so that you can see how I do this sleeve. So it looks like I am now gonna start working on the sleeve, and I'm gonna go in through here. Okay, a little tough. Tension's a little tight, I bet. But yeah, you're gonna continue braid stitching all the way till the end of that sleeve to complete row 11. And I'll meet you when we're here. And I just wanted to come in here real quick. If you're having trouble distinguishing which little stitch to go in, only for this row, it doesn't matter because this is the bottom of our sleeve, so you're not even gonna really be able to tell the pattern that we're achieving here. So, you know, if you can't find it, it's fine. Like, just try your best, you know, just try to get in there as best as you can. Just make sure that you are completing the amount of stitches that you need for that row. But yeah, don't stress too much, because I was kind of stressing, but then I realized that it doesn't even matter because this is going to be the bottom of my sleeve. Okay, so I am nearing the end of the 11th row. Okay, so I am gonna switch my hook to the 5mm hook, chain 1, and turn, and slip stitch all the way across for row 12. So I'm just gonna repeat that same pattern till I have my desired length. And to find your desired length, you're gonna take your measurement around your arm, and for me that is 12 inches, so I'm gonna divide that by 2, which is 6 inches, and I'm gonna go ahead and crochet the length of 6 inches for that, repeating that pattern. Here I am nearing the end of my last row. Okay, so now that is the back piece complete. Now it's time to work on your front piece. And for the front piece, you're gonna do the exact same thing you did for the back piece, except when you have 5 rows left, you wanna stop so that we can create this little square neckline. And I'll meet you when I'm there. Okay, so I have 5 rows left to finish. So this is where I'm gonna stop. And my last row was a slip stitch row. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna measure my square neckline, and that is gonna be 10 inches. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold my piece in half. And I'm gonna measure 5 inches here. I'm gonna take a paper clip. You can use a bobby pin, a stitch marker, whatever you have on hand. And do the same for the other side. I'm just gonna align them. All right. Okay, so there are our markers, and this is going to indicate where to stop. So this is my last row right here. The slip stitches came undone, so I'm just going to finish that. Okay, now I'm going to chain 3 and turn. And I'm gonna work my braid stitch all the way until I meet this stitch marker. And I'm gonna stop right there. Okay, so I am nearing my stitch marker. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna switch hooks because I'm gonna chain 1, turn my work, and continue slip stitching all the way across the other way. And that is what's gonna start our little neckline area. So you continue that same exact pattern all the way until you finish your 5 rows. And you can cut and tie off. Okay, so now we're gonna get started on the other side. So go to your other stitch marker. Take your yarn and you're gonna attach right here. And just tie a double knot. Okay. So since our last stitch was a slip stitch, we're gonna begin with a braid stitch. So go ahead and chain 3 and continue as you would with your braid stitches all the way to the end of the sleeve. And I'm going to switch hooks to my bigger hook, chain 1 and turn. And now I'm going to slip stitch all the way down to my stitch marker right here, and I'm going to repeat that pattern until I finish the last 5 rows, and when we're done with that, I'll show you how to attach the 2 pieces together. Alright, so we're going to start sewing our front and back pieces together, and to start you want to put your front sides together. So the front side is the side that will be showing outside, so make sure that you have your 2 front sides facing each other, and you want to line them up. I already sewed this sleeve, so you're going to sew from the neck, the neck all the way down to the end of your sleeve, and the same for this bottom part. So it's like from this corner all the way to the armpit corner, all the way down to the end of the sleeve. And you want to keep this open space, and then the bottom of course open as well. And then I'll show you how I sew that. So I have them lined up and I just attach them with a paper clip. And you want to have at least 3 times the length, 3 times of the length of what you're sewing. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And this is already attached, but if you were attaching your yarn, you would just attach with a double knot So I have my yarn needle here, and this is a method I'll be using. You can use your favorite method. So you just want to line them up and go in through the first stitches. Pull through, but not all the way because I'm going to make a knot. So this loop right here, I'm just going to go in through that with my yarn needle, pull through, and I'll probably just make a couple knots. I'll do one more. Okay, that's good. So now, making sure each stitch lines up, I'll be going through like that, and I'll go into the following stitches, and I'm just gonna keep doing that until I reach the neckline. Here I am nearing the end. I'm gonna do a knot. Go through that loop. And now I'm gonna weave in through these guys. All right, and then of course finish this part and then do the other side as well. I'm so excited to wear it. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you in my next vid.